Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome! And if you're joining us in our previous video, hey, we love to see it and I hope you're doing well. Hey, an episode I'm sure none of you thought was going to happen. But we're live with Season 5. The series would pivot in this season to take on seasonal themes, with the first one being Archer Vice, which, all things considered, I will still say is the best of this experimental era. So, what made this such a booger sugar packed delight? Well, there's only one way to find out. What worked, what failed, what Kenny Loggins duets will be curtailed. That's right, the Archer review is very much alive because it's time to review Season 5. It's another beautiful day at the office. Oh, it's all so tranquil, and it's Mallory's birthday. Yay! Archer is walking in, bouquet in hand, and everything is so serene that William Tell's overture is even playing in the background. And then everything goes sideways! The whole thing is FUBAR! Explosions, flash grenades, the firm is getting raided! And before we even know what's going on, poor Brett is taken out for the very last time. The gang are freaking out, and then they see the backs of the raiders. This isn't Odin, or the Russians. This is the FBI. ISIS is getting shut down by the US government. This would also be the first appearance of new series regular Special Agent Holly, played by comedy and voice acting legend Gary Cole. Birdman has now graced the super spy spectacle, and he wouldn't be alone. This season is honestly loaded with special guest stars, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Now, of course, they had to get rid of ISIS due to the very real organization of the same name, and so they pivoted something pretty intense, and it's honestly pretty great that the transition feels so natural. The gang are being taken into custody, and Mallory tells them not to squeal, and they might get out of this. Archer and Lana start working together to get out of their interrogations, while everyone else squeals until it's revealed that Mallory had signed a deal with the FBI for their freedom in exchange for shuttering ISIS. So what are they all going to do? They have specialized skills and mostly blacked out resumes. Naturally, Archer has to ask about the giant pile of Colombian booger sugar, and Mallory suggests, hey, how hard could it be to move some snow? And so begins Archer Vice. I adore this episode, and it's easily one of the strongest of the entire show because it balances the tense action and the quirkiest of quirky dialogue absolutely perfectly. Gary Cole feels like a natural inclusion to the cast that just fits in seamlessly, and it's a great preview of what's to come. You could tell that Adam Reed still has a perfect grasp on what makes the show so special, and the dialogue maintains its sharpness, which is utterly incredible for a series 5 seasons deep. White Elephant is a world-flipping 9 out of 10. So one of the incredibly nice things of the season is that it's got season-long narratives while still being somewhat episodic, and it's all kicked off with this episode. Now they don't have an office, the gang is operating out of Tunt Manor, where Cheryl is now trying to become a country music singer, except she has stage fright, though she'd later turn into Charlene, an icon of outlaw country thanks to Ray and Krieger's help. Ray is teaching her to sing while still paralyzed and very, very depressed. Mallory has a contact in Miami that she thinks she can push some of the product onto, so Lana and Archer head down to Miami with Pam stuck in a body cast made entirely of prime cut, high-grade bumpa-doodle-doos. Yeah, the narrative of this season is Pam gets addicted to the good stuff, and by the end of the episode, she's chewing on her cast. In Miami, the gang meet up with Ramon, played by the returning and always incredible Ron Perlman. And Ramon swears he can help move it until there was a shootout and Ramon takes his last breath fighting for his amigos. Till, of course, it turns out Ramon was in league with Charles and Rudy, and Archer basically walks away with a briefcase full of funny money. I think one of the absolute strengths of Archer is while the story idea is basic, the dialogue is what makes the entire show just that much more incredible. The characters feel so realized and will come up with absolutely horrible plans that in hindsight, if you give them any critical thought, are truly genuinely stupid, but they swear they were good in the moment. And that's both with the core crew and the people that antagonize them. Charles and Rudy are incredibly smart antagonists, and it's an absolute treasure of an episode. Great comedy, Pam's steady drop into addiction, and just more Archer good stuff. A kiss while dying is a tear-soaked goodbye. 9 out of 10. So it's probably best to talk about it here, but the new base of operations is Tunt Manor, which really kind of has a spirit all its own. It has so many secret passageways and tunnels, and it's as big as Adam Reed needs it to be. They need to have a room with an empty pool. It's easy to hand wave it away as just old money being spent on frivolous things. It's fantastic, and we even get Ron just kind of floating around and hanging out. We also get a few showcases of Woodhouse being trapped all over the house and uttering a few lines, though he'd be played by Tom Kane this season until they write him out of the show entirely, which is completely understandable. Anyway, the crew don't know what they're going to do with all the counterfeit money, and Pam is just chomping down on a brick of their product like a fiend, and decides to take that money and buy some fun pills and other assorted party enhancers from the Yakuza, who are understandably not pleased when they find out they got swindled. We even get the return of Mr. Moto, played by the great George Takei. And so the gang have to hunker down at the house when Ron takes some sniper fire, and a team breaks off to get him to the hospital while Archer goes to deal with Moto. I love that the antagonist of the episode is straight up just Pam. She is absolutely doing her own thing and everyone else is suffering because of it. But because Amber Nash is just that good, she makes Pam so dang endearing as this coked up whirlwind that I don't know. Everyone else in the show is a celebrated voice actor or actor in general at this point. And I really wish Amber Nash got more of that love, because she is easily one of the best parts of this entire show and has been integral to Adam Reed's creative vision since Frisky Dingo. She does so well in his style, and this episode is a brilliant showcase of that. Also, again, George Takei is great, especially when doing serious presenting characters. You need to play Yakuza like a dragon. Seriously, he's so good in it. And you better believe I won't stop bringing it up. But that last bit where he's negotiating with Archer to at least come out of this looking like the winner is utterly fantastic. And the episode, much like the first one, has a great blend of tense action and just phenomenal writing. Like, most of the season is the best Archer has ever been, and frankly, personally, will ever be. I adore Season 5, if you couldn't tell, and this is easily one of my favorite episodes. A Debt of Honor is a Monopoly money funded 10 out of 10. Alright, so thanks to Pam's Yakuza hijinks and her newfound craving for Principal Lewis's favorite flavor of Friday Night Fun, the gang's lost about 6 mil of their product with nothing to show for it and decide to throw an intervention. Pam has lost a ton of weight and is this lean, hourglass, booger sugar eating machine. They conquer out with a frying pan and plan their next move. They try and do their own kind of intervention, and Krieger even offers to put a brain chip in Pam to get her to stop, which gets her to run off into the house with Cheryl as a hostage like she's King Kong. And as they're dealing with their hulked out HR director, Agent Holly pops by on account of, the whole Yakuza thing to see, hey, what's going on? So they have to find Pam and Cheryl, hide the massive amount of product from Agent Holly, and try and play it cool, all while Ron gets fed up with everything and leaves Mallory, while Krieger debates using the brain chip to help Cheryl get over her stage fright. Obviously, throughout this season, Lana is pregnant, and you see Archer actually being much more careful around her and aware of her. Sure, he was kidding back in the first episode of the season and played it off, but Lana and her baby are always his priority, even if he has no idea he's the dad. Spoilers, but Lana's having his kid. She knows he's the dad, he's got no clue. But when Holly is looking around, he's convincing her to run off and save herself because Lana's too important to him. They both are. And it's that emotional growth and that showcase of Archer maturing that makes this season work. Even though it's a wild concept, Archer is becoming more and more the voice of reason, and will continue to do so for some time. He's genuinely trying to cut bad habits and be better. Now, of course, he's not perfect and will keep slipping, but it makes him work as a flawed hero. They're able to keep the product hidden from Holly, and after Pam munches on some more of the good stuff, Krieger reveals that he put the brain chip into Cheryl, and now she's Charlene and ready to take on the world. Again, the dialogue is the cornerstone of the episode. Ray, being this depressed alcoholic that just keeps spiraling, would be super sad, but Adam Reed delivers his lines with such a genuineness that it just works. he has perfected this voice and the cadence necessary to make Ray this well-defined character, and it really speaks to the show as a whole. They don't skimp on anyone's development. This episode is a beautiful example of little truly happening, but still feeling jam-packed with quality. House Call is a revolving staircase utilizing 9 out of 10. Alright, so Archer is a tricky show to have a top 5 episodes of, especially if it's an episode from one of these later seasons where there's this season-long narrative. You have to watch the episodes before and after to ultimately get the full story and a lot of the jokes. But even without the full story, even knowing nothing else about this show, Southbound and Down is my bar none de facto favorite episode of the entire series. Bar none, no questions asked. And at the time of recording this, I still have 3 seasons to watch, and I doubt my mind will be swayed on this. Am I just a genuine fan of Smokey and the Bandit? Absolutely. Is this also just one of the best episodes of Archer of all time? Hands down. Charlene has been booked on Travis County Limits in Texas to perform, however, she doesn't fly. So the gang get a bus and Archer gets a Trans Am and gets to live out his Burt Reynolds-shaped dream of doing a Smokey and the Bandit. They also load the bus with some product to hopefully move it. Oh, and Ray gets to walk again with Krieger screwing with his legs. Pam gets to go with Archer in the Trans Am, and they're just cruising, and she's got her Powder Puff cupcakes to munch down on, and it's a whole fun time. Sure enough, Pam tells a bunch of bikers about their sugar-esque stowaway on the bus, and they start going after them. Pam isn't necessarily the antagonist of this episode, but she's definitely an agent of chaos that adds to the complexity of everything that's going on, which is actually phenomenal. I love her character, and I think it just works that much better because they have her feeling self-conscious and trying to get biker approval for some reason, so that's why she blabs. It's so on brand for Pam. That's so Pam. They get Charlene to the show, and she knocks it out of the park, becoming an outlaw country icon practically overnight. I love the episode. It's got amazing jokes, even more fantastic delivery. Like if there was ever a near flawless season of Archer, which up to now has still been incredible, it would be season 5. This episode brought me so much joy, and it's still one of my favorite episodes to revisit all these years later. Southbound and Down is a loaded up and truckin' 10 out of 10. This is kind of the really funny thing about this season. There's this really interesting balance of away missions and home missions. Lana's getting restless and is very obviously going through it, and Ray points out she hasn't had a baby shower, so that's really the episode. Mallory having everyone plan a secret baby shower for Lana, while Krieger sets up an online store for their product. Meanwhile, Archer and Pam go off to get the best musician to ever play a baby shower in the history of baby showers, Kenny Loggins, played by Kenny Loggins, to play Lana's baby shower. But they'd have to get past his bodyguard, Randy, played by vocal legend Clancy Brown. Again, Archer is at its best when it's marathoned in order because it makes episodes like this work that much more. We've seen that everyone cares for each other, and while Lana is still an effective agent, she's going through it, especially dealing with doing all this while also getting ready to be a mom. There is no ulterior motive to anyone celebrating her or wanting to give her a baby shower. Even Archer is going to get Kenny Loggins because he thinks that would be the best gift possible for her. He wants to share something he cares so deeply about with the woman he deep down loves more than anyone. They manage to convince Kenny Loggins to perform the baby shower, and he plays opposite Charlene. Which I haven't talked about it, but Charlene's singing wouldn't be done by Pam Grier, but actually by Jesse Martins, who does an absolutely fantastic job. This isn't just a butter on a Pop-Tart idea. They actually had something they were going for and perfectly actualized it. Again, Archer realizing those dreams of meeting Burt Reynolds or Kenny Loggins feels a little off, but the fact they actually got the real people to play themselves adds to it. They're former super spies pushing product, and there's people with cyber legs and brain chips. By all intents and purposes, Pam should not be alive. If you can suspend your disbelief on all these things, you can believe that Archer would be able to hunt down the real Kenny Loggins and his glowing briefcase. Not to mention the perfect joke of Lana never understanding Archer's reference and not realizing Danger Zone was an actual song. Which, I don't know, that's just such a perfect payoff to all this running around. It's so muted and simple and just works excellently. She genuinely just has no idea what he's even talking about, and I love it. Baby Shower is a highway taking 9 out of 10. Alright, here's where things get a little shaky for me personally. I genuinely believe that this 3-parter would actually work better as the season finale than the season finale we get. I feel like with some tweaking, this could have been the, say, 4-part finale we ended up with. It's a doozy. Archer, Ray, and Cyril run off to Colombia to try and move some of their product without telling Mallory or anyone else. They're on the hunt for La Madrina, the crime boss, and when they go looking for her, the paramilitary manage to track them down, and, fun fact, La Madrina would actually be played by Blake Perlman, Ron Perlman's daughter. We also get the return of Archer's super complicated voicemails, and it's just amazing. It's fantastic. I cannot tell you how hard I laughed. Archer, Cyril, and Ray run from the military, run into La Madrina. Archer sleeps with La Madrina, and it turns out she's actually a super deep undercover military operative. Mallory is distraught that she has no idea where her son is, and everyone is worrying about the 3 as they're jeeped off to jail. Like, that's the whole episode, and it really works. But it could have very easily been broken into 2 parts on its own, and the second episode could also be broken in 2 parts. Build on La Madrina. Give us more of the 3 really dealing with each other. This all had the means to be the end of the season, and it's a phenomenal little story. But that also speaks to just the overall quality of the show, that just this 3-episode collection could be viewed as a season finale. I don't know, it always feels like one steady adventure and really accentuates what makes this season so special. And I mean, John Benjamin is really giving his all to make Archer this flawed yet vulnerable hero. I would argue at this point, Sterling Archer is easily a career best character for him, and it's easy to see why. He's able to add so many more layers to the jokes, to the drama, and it really shows that he cares about Sterling. And again, you have to remember, he and Adam Reed have been waist deep in the culture of Adult Swim. They've worked on all kinds of different products. And here, where they're actually given basically free reign to make a perfectly actualized concept that has been around since C-Lab, you get something actually truly special. Smuggler's Blues is a well set up, conspiratorial 8 out of 10. Mallory is absolutely distraught and stressing out. Her son is out of communication in a whole other country, her husband left her, and she just does not know what to do. They don't know where the 3 are, and they know they can't help on that front. So, Lana and Pam try and throw Mallory a spa day to take her mind off things. Again, Archer's voicemails driving his mom insane and pushing her past her limits is just so perfect in a twisted way. Adam Reed knows how to use a gimmick and never makes it feel overdone. He knows how to not use it for episodes and then all of a sudden, bam, it's right there in the forefront to get you. It's like the Cat in the Hat just sneaking up to bludgeon you behind the head with a bat. It just works. The bulk of the episode is Ray pretending to be paralyzed as Archer and Cyril try to navigate the jungles after the jeep that was supposed to take them to jail goes off the road after avoiding a cow. They end up on a raft going down a river with one of Archer's greatest fears infesting it, crocodiles. Ray is furious that Archer always makes her situations worse and never apologizes, that he always does whatever he wants and everyone else has to pick up the pieces. And admittedly, towards the end, Archer does have a real heart-to-heart with Ray and apologizes and admits that he does sometimes mess up, which causes Ray to then just jump up and run off once he gets the apology he was looking for and flies their commandeered plane home. The Rules of Extraction is just a great character building episode, and you can really feel the tension starting to boil and get worse and worse. They're getting more and more desperate. There's just so much to love here, and again, it really all boils down to the dialogue, especially in the next episode. The Rules of Extraction is a KT surviving 9 out of 10. Good old framing devices. This episode is told through flashbacks with everyone gathered in the study around a very angry Mallory who's just chucking glasses of whiskey into the roaring fireplace. Charlene took some shots for her album cover, but that's not the focus of this episode. No, see, when Ray Archer and Cyril landed in Florida from Colombia, they meet Slater, an arms dealer, played by Christian Slater. Turns out they'd maybe sort of been a part of a CIA shadow ops mission where they trade the product on the plane for a bunch of weapons that they need to deliver to San Marcos' current leader, Gustavo Calderon, who is played by Fred Armisen. Krieger takes all their powder and blows it up because he put it all in a sub that he couldn't get out of the house, and Mallory is ready to completely destroy every fiber of his being. So yeah, this 3-part thing is really the first half of the finale that effectively spans 7 episodes. Not really a finale at that point, more the entire back half of the season. But I digress. This is when things kinda twist for me. They're completely out of their first trade and going all in on another one that's arguably even more dangerous. It makes sense, but I don't know. This episode really could have been a season finale, and then you just get into the Gustavo stuff next season. I feel like you'd be able to stretch these episodes out a bit more, sprinkle some more filler episodes in, and get to the 13-episode run, or they even have this be one of the first 8-episode seasons that they do later on. It'd work better for this idea, I think, especially with what the next season finale ends up being. It's overall fine, but I'm really not a fan of it. On the carpet is an open marriage exploring 8 out of 10. And here we are, the first part of the 4-part season finale, or part 4 of 7, but who's counting? So the gang end up in San Marcos with Charlene and Pam in a box, and they're greeted by Gustavo, who is a very eccentric ruler and a massive Charlene fan. So when he sees her, of course he's got to give her a star tour of his massive mansion. They also leave Krieger alone because there's actually several Krieger clones under his employ. Archer sleeps with a maid that turns out to have been Gustavo's wife in disguise, Juliana. Juliana would be played by Lauren Cohen. So Archer has to keep it hidden that he slept with the dictator's wife, while Gustavo reveals that he has no money to pay them for their weapons, as the rebels start breaking through the barriers and advancing on the palace. Cheryl, of course, thinking they're her dedicated fans. It's a fine setup for a final little arc for the season, and I know it's a personal gripe, but Fred Armisen is really hit or miss to me, and if you don't like him, there's a lot of him to not like in these episodes. The Krieger clones are fine, Pam and Cyril are just kinda there for now, and it's very obviously just set up for the rest of the finale. And it's just here that it's like, you could make San Marcos a season on its own, have them adapting to working for Gustavo for a season, or have it lead up to the rebel invasion. Here, it's still fine, it's just, I don't know. It feels like there was a lot they could have explored here that just sort of gets rushed through. The Archer and Juliana element feels a little overdone, but the jokes are still sharp enough you don't really care. Palace Intrigue is an outlaw country celebrating 8 out of 10. With the rebels marching on the palace, everyone is planning on cheesing it right proper while Archer tries to keep his sleeping with Juliana a secret. Cyril has to go get a getaway car and Krieger bonds with his clone. As they start trying to escape, Cyril steals a tank, Gustavo tries to marry Charlene and finds out about Archer and Juliana, and it all culminates in Cyril taking over as San Marcos' dictator and throwing Gustavo, Juliana, and Archer in prison. I'll admit, it's a very clever spin to have Cyril go mad with power because that's absolutely what he would do in this situation, especially when he's encouraged and emboldened by Mallory. Again, the episode is only half as good as it is because of the acting and the dialogue. The events can be described quickly because the focus is on the jokes. Lana has actually become very much the straight man and the voice of reason through all of this, but even she has to be careful with what she says and does, and it's just sort of a masterful way every character's motivations and reasoning always seems to make sense for them in that moment. They are always acting with their own interests at heart. Adam Reed has such a perfect grasp on who these characters are that you could really throw them into any environment and it just sort of writes itself. You can see the fluidity of his scripts, especially in an episode like this that should have all the focus on a civil war, and yet there's so many extra pieces added on because no one in the group can just be normal in this show, and it's great. Palace Intrigue Part 2 is an album-selling chart-topping 8 out of 10. With Cyril now in charge, Archer is wasting away in a cell when Cyril decides to throw Charlene down there while getting Juliana out to marry him. Charlene, Gustavo, and Archer then escape to try and find their way back to safety, with Gustavo getting eaten by a tiger at the zoo, because Archer really wanted a pet tiger, and Charlene was not having it. Cyril is growing more and more mad with power, and the rebels are still advancing on the palace. This is when Archer and Charlene run into the leaders of the rebel front, Agents Holly and Slater. That's right, this is all part of an even bigger, darker CIA cover-up to take a world leader out and have them replaced with someone that could be much more useful to the United States. Something that has never happened before in the history of history. Lana gets taken to the CIA leaders, and with everything else going on, her water breaks. There's just such a nonchalantness to how Holly and Slater operate here, and I just really kind of appreciate it. To them, this is just a Tuesday of a very, very important, global leadership changing operation they've been doing as they effectively install a puppet government. Like, Gustavo was bad, and Holly and Slater aren't better, but they're gonna look after the crew. Oh, and Krieger and his clones all made a giant missile that they can't stop, so Krieger and Ray will have to deal with that. Definitely a lot of moving parts heading into the finale. Though, much like Heart of Darkness 2, this probably could have been split between Palace Intrigue Part 2 and Arrival Departure the next episode. It's really only as long as it is because of how many jokes there are, and a lot of the plots don't really need all these extra steps. You could just say it's 3 weeks later and pick up from there. If it's the worst episode of the season, it's only because it feels largely unnecessary, and even that isn't a bad thing. It's still worth the time to watch, it still has phenomenal acting, and it's not a dip in quality at all. It's just something where you can see that they were trying to work within the parameters of their contracts rather than what worked best for this season. I just think the season would have been snappier without this episode. Filibuster is a tiger filling 7 out of 10. And here we are, the season finale. Holly tells Lana that the gang has effectively been trying to move the CIA's product for them in exchange for their freedom, and Archer was in on it the entire time. He wasn't, and it was all Mallory who of course hid it from Archer and really everyone else, but Holly is an agent of chaos. Mallory, Pam, and Charlene loot the palace on their way out, the CIA call in an airstrike, and Ray and Krieger are able to disarm the nerve agent on the missile to save everyone. And when everyone comes together at the airport, Lana gives birth and they all start flying home. Mallory makes a new deal with Holly to make up for losing the product, and as Archer meets Abergene for the first time, we find out who her father is. Sure enough, Archer's donated sample from when he had cancer is the reason baby Abergene is around today. Dancing around monetization is fun. The reality hitting Archer is just utterly fantastic, and again, it really comes down to the vocal performances, and John Benjamin absolutely sells Archer just in absolute shock. It's a great conclusion that falls perfectly into place and wraps everything up succinctly. Like, everyone coming together to help Lana for completely selfless reasons speaks volumes. Mallory's been in her position before. She knows how scary it can be, and Archer knows he'd be of no use to her. Everyone has this maturity on display when one of their members is going through such a large event, especially someone that's kept the firm together like Lana. There are big, grand, globe-spanning adventures, but then there's also these moments in those same episodes. You don't need another episode after this. You want more, but you don't need more. And that's a very important distinction. Of course, we're not even halfway through the series, but it's so rare to have a season finale that's able to wrap everything so perfectly. Not to mention, Gary Cole and Christian Slater are actually just fantastic regular additions to the show and have this natural chemistry that works really, really well. Arrival Departure is a life-changing and Vice concluding 9 out of 10. And there we have it, that's season 5. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite episode, least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Archer Vice as a season is easily my favorite of the entire show. I was excited for it the moment I saw the trailer, and I vividly remember watching it every single week as it premiered. It was something I made sure to carve time out of my schedule to enjoy week after week, and it always delivered for me. Archer will always be a showcase of some of the best writing adult animation has to offer. The conversations feel fluid and natural, the performances are next level, and it's all very much a testament to how Adam Reed loves the show and how much passion everyone is bringing to it. There is no weak performers. The animation is getting crisper by the season, and yet they never let the big action pieces overshadow what makes the series great. Granted, Fred Armisen can get just a little bit grating over time, and when that's my only major gripe with the season as a whole, that speaks to its absolute quality. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall, and if you want to support the channel, be a part of special polls, and get some videos before they come out for everyone else, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month and you even get your name on this fancy list. Woo! Next season, the gang goes government, so I hope you join us as we get our fix of Season 6. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Like always, remember to stay strong. Keep fighting that good fight. Know that everything will be all right. And a new dawn is coming. I can feel it. And I will make sure to see you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.